Hey everyone, it's me. Come on in. This is live to everybody because why not? It's a beautiful morning. It's like Thursday, and I figured let's just talk live. Who cares, man? Let's be in the moment. There's like apparently some heat dome over the western U.S., but where we are right now, it's like if this is a heat dome, I'll take it, man. Global warming for life, son. Come on in. Let's read your comments. Talk about anything you want. Hi, Nicole Rocha. How are you? Karen is here. She says, oh, hi, Z. But it's like OHAI because like that's what the kids are doing these days. I have no idea what the kids are doing. I have 2 children, and they tell me all kinds of crazy things. These Gen Z little mongrels. Melissa's here. How are you? Yeah, you know, it has been getting quite warm, which makes you think, okay, so what effect would that have on like coronavirus dynamics? And yeah, one might wonder. I'll tell you what, though, I just don't care. I don't care what effect it's going to have because we've already been through one cycle of it. It's like, hey, get vaccinated or don't, wear a mask or don't. At this point, like, there is solutions for this thing, so either do them or don't, but then let's just move on, right? I think in the US. The rest of the world, it's a little more complex, but you know, we've done plenty of videos on coronavirus and I'm just tired of it. Tammy Jackson, good morning. Good morning to you. Cynthia's here. She says it's still here. What, the heat dome or the coronavirus? I know the coronavirus is still here. By the way, if you didn't get a chance, watch the myocarditis video I did yesterday, kind of dissecting this phenomenon of vaccine-induced myocarditis versus coronavirus-induced myocarditis. What is myocarditis? Should you get vaccinated, etc. Let's see. Nicole is here, says Ova Corona, and Suzanne is here. So these are our supporter tribe. You know, the pitch for the supporter tribe is it's just an awesome group of people, and they support the show, so I don't have to like do all the corporate sponsorship nonsense, which is nice. So the other things I'm kind of interested in these days are the present moment. Kind of really interested in that. Look at that little birdie. So, you know, as we start getting back to a post-pandemic life, whatever that means, right? Because there's just life, and post-pandemic, I mean, what even does that mean, right? Because life only happens right now, but many people are kind of starting to look at that right now for the first time because they've had a break, like something just disrupted the stream of, you know, being trapped in time for a while. And I think the pandemic was really a positive in that aspect because many people said, oh, wait, what am I doing? Right? If you had the luxury to say that. If you're an essential worker, you may be saying, what am I doing? But have no conception of how you might do something else, right? Because you're trying to survive. You're trying to fill in those pieces of Maslow's hierarchy that are, you know, food and shelter and sustenance. And then the next stages of like finding belonging and love. And then you get to, you know, self-actualization well down the line. But I think in the US in particular, there are quite a few people who are struggling at all levels of that, you know, hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, who the pandemic just said, like, hey, the fabric of what you think is stable reality is not so stable. And these stories that we tell ourselves about who we are and our position in the world and what our job is and what our career is and what our purpose is and what our roles are and who's our family and who are our loved ones and who are our enemies and who do we, you know, want to be when we grow up. Like all these things, when you disrupt the stability of what you thought was real, you can question those stories, because ultimately when you really look into the present moment and question, is any of this stuff really real, or are these stories, are these identities that we create moment to moment and drag on and on and on and continue to add layer and layer and layer to it? And what if we were able to cut through all that by just looking at what's going on right now? What's authentically us in a moment? What are we feeling right now, emotionally? What thoughts are floating in the thought space? You know, that is quite interesting, because there is a thought space. Have you ever really looked at your thoughts? Have you ever spent time kind of just paying attention to thoughts and really saying, hey, where do these things come from? Like, did I actually think that thought, or did it just appear in this space? And what is a thought? And you kind of look at it and you go, wait, what is this made of? What is it? And then you kind of investigate and go, wait, a thought's really just a reflection. It's like an echo of one of the senses. Like, it's a sound, like a sound of our voice, or it's an image, like something we might see, but it's recreated kind of in this thought space, so that you have this image. It might be a memory of a sensation, like a feeling. It might be a memory or an image of an emotion, or it might be a reflection of a previous thought, which is also one of those five senses, just reflected in this pool of awareness that happens only now. And if you spend any time paying attention to thoughts, you start to see what they're made of, which is the same stuff that everything else is made of. Sights and sounds and perceptions, sensations, emotions, taste, smells. They're all made of this mysterious awareness stuff as a matter of experience. I'm not making a scientific judgment on what this stuff's made of. I'm saying, as a matter of experience, that's what it feels like. So what happens when you really look at thought, when you look at what a belief is, like what's an idea? It's a series of thoughts complexly stuck together in this pool of consciousness. Well, what happens if you actually pay attention to the rest of the pool of consciousness that's happening right now? There's the sound of the birds. There's the sound of my voice. And if I'm paying attention to what's going on, I'm not even authoring these words. They're just coming out. They're just happening now. And then I may experience a thought about, maybe this audience thinks I'm crazy or high or something right now, neither of which are true, but that thought may arise, and then it disappears into nothing as well. And then you pay attention to the sights and the sounds, and the sensations in the body. You can feel what it's like right here. And suddenly the present moment, which you've ignored and you've repressed and you've resisted, by paying more attention to the thought stream, the idea stream, the projection of future and the imagery of the past, all of which is happening now, but you don't know it because you're lost in the thought stream. When suddenly that attention, your attention, which is the most powerful tool you have, rests in the present moment, see what happens. Feel what happens. Actually be what happens in the present moment. It's pretty remarkable. It really is. You can do that, and it is better than any drug. It's better than alcohol. It's better than nicotine. It's better than, I was going to say it's better than sex, but I doubt that. Nothing's better than sex. But all of it happening in the present moment without resistance to what is a beautiful open experience where even the sense of you as the experiencer, this little separate entity, might be seen through, might be seen for what it is, which is another thought, another belief, another idea. And when you investigate and inquire and investigate directly into that idea, you might actually see that the idea itself evaporates. Or if it persists, you see through it and go, oh no, the present moment is just happening, really to no one. The person it's happening to is an idea. Some people call that liberation. I just call it cool as hell. Hey, if you want to learn more about how to do these things, we're going to be doing more and more videos on it, but we already have a series that I'm going to release the third long interview in with Dr. Angelo DeLullo about the present moment, waking up to your real identity as all this, and liberating yourself from a lot of unnecessary suffering, but even more importantly, liberating others from your suffering, which causes them to suffer. And that may mean accepting emotions for what they are, experiencing things in the present moment for what they are, instead of constantly repressing and denying and spinning stories and projecting. We're really good at that. Humans are really good at that. It's almost like we evolved to do it. But our natural state, our natural birth state is not like that. That's not who we really are. We can get trapped in that energy pattern, and that can be fine for a long time, but at some point it starts to feel deeply dissatisfying, if not, frankly, horrible. So for some people, they just have an immune system that rejects that sense of separation and all the identities we spin around ourselves. It's very uncomfortable for them, and they're more likely to be spiritual seekers and, go sit and meditate for hours a day and desperately try to find relief, right? But for most of us, it's more this, man, life's okay, but I feel like the more I try to get, the more I want. And I don't know, this pandemic comes and suddenly I'm at home instead of going into an office. And I never realized how little I really liked going into that office and sitting in traffic and sitting in my car. I like seeing people, I like connecting with people, but on my terms. And boy, I hate meetings. And actually Zoom didn't make that much better, because I hate Zoom meetings too. And everybody's different, right? But maybe I'm just speaking for myself. Boy, I didn't like traveling around and doing talks and sleeping in hotel rooms and trying to hustle to make a living. And I still need to do that, because otherwise you can't pay the bills. But it's kind of like, well, is there a better way to be? Maybe I should just pay more attention to what I really need. Maybe I don't need all that. Maybe what I need is right here already, right? And when you actually behave authentically from present moment awareness, it's strange how things just seem to work out, right? You don't end up becoming a monk and living in a cave unless you're weird, or you have that spiritual immune system, right? And it doesn't matter what your identity or belief is. In fact, we're going to be doing shows about the reconciliation and the integration of things like Christianity and meditation. They're not exclusive concepts. I think many people search for this, like, well, is it okay if I practice these kind of things he's talking about if I'm like a follower of Jesus Christ? And again, stay tuned. So we'll be talking about that too. So, all the medical stuff and all the things we talk about, that's all very important on this particular level. There's levels of reality, right? But then what's even fundamental to all of that? And can we start looking at it? Let's look at it from a medical perspective, since that's the audience here that we have, right? It's that we've built over all these years. I mean, there's 2.4 million people following on Facebook, which is kind of ridiculous, right? And like 350,000 on YouTube and, 450,000 on Instagram. I don't know how this happened, but we've got this crew now. How about we do some real good? If you want to transform systems that suck, like healthcare, wouldn't it make sense that those systems are emergent properties of the humans that make them up? So if you want a bottom-up grassroots transformation, one of the things that would be necessary for that is actually transforming us from these seeking machines that are lost in the sauce of identity building and acquisition and accomplishment to much more authentic beings that actually already know what's important and are able to live authentically, well, then what's going to happen? You're going to get a healthcare system emergent, if we work on it together, that actually is much more heart-based, is much more accepting of our diversity and our unity and diversity, and is more understanding of things like the mind-body connection, where the role of medications is appropriate and where we are just putting a Band-Aid on without addressing the fundamental problem. We talk about somatization and, people having physical effects from, emotional stress and all that. Of course they do, right? Emotions are called feelings for a reason, because you feel them in the body. If you have stress, if you're repressing emotions, if you had trauma, if you are struggling with those things, of course some of them are going to manifest physically in this thing, right? Which nobody really understands. So shouldn't we be looking at that in a non-woo-woo, non-magical thinking, science-oriented, but not necessarily science-constrained, meaning science has a lot to teach us, but then sometimes there's things that do work on intuition, right? And on a sort of a trans-scientific approach, which transcends and includes the scientific approach. That's why we've done some of these shows on, the nature of reality. Is reality actually made of stuff, which is one paradigm, that stuff emerges consciousness and all that, which means the way we treat human beings is as machines that are stuff-based. And so if you tweak a machine, if you oil it here, if you give it a little extra fuel here, if you add an additive here, the machine behaves differently. I think that paradigm works up until a point, and then it doesn't work, because I really think, based on, and watch the videos with Bernardo Kastrup, with Federico Fagin, with Donald Hoffman, I actually don't think we're stuff-based. I think we are different than that. That awareness is primary, and stuff is a manifestation, meaning it's what awareness looks like to itself. So these are icons that we see. Can you manipulate icons to change experience? Yes. So when a neurosurgeon is cutting on a brain, they're manipulating a brain, and we seem to think, the brain is the mechanistic cause of everything. But I would argue the brain doesn't cause anything. The brain is what a separate conscious entity looks like to another human observing it. And so by moving things around in the brain mechanistically, you're doing something, right? You're doing something to the consciousness, but it's not because you're moving meat around. Meat is just an icon. It's kind of like a desktop on your computer. You can move something to the trash, but you're not literally moving something to the trash. What you're moving is underlying all that. The zeros and ones and electron gates, you don't see any of that. But it correlates to what you see on the desktop because it's been designed that way. Well, what if reality was the same way? Well, that's going to change our paradigm. It means that things like simply training our minds, paying attention to the present moment, understanding the role of emotion, awareness, thought, sensation in the now moment can be as effective as a scalpel in changing what you perceive your well-being to be and what actually physically may manifest from that perception. Because it's all one continuum, right? It's not body and mind, it's body-mind, it's one field. So that's why these things have practical ramifications. Now, one of my frustrations with the people who talk about these kind of things in those terms is they come off as quite new agey and quite weird and quite woo-woo. Like people like Deepak Chopra, I'm sure he's a lovely human being, but he feels to me like somebody selling a ton of books who speaks in a spiritual mumbo-jumbo that reeks of ego, for lack of a better term. It's almost like they're substituting belief on top of belief that says there's no belief. And that's just another belief. And it's kind of frustrating, I think. I think many people do resonate with that kind of thing, but I don't. I want to run far away. And a lot of that is because I think the more you look at things rationally, because rational thought is an important component of the human condition, you can start to see these biases, these distortions, and then just investigate in your own experience in the present moment. Investigate, what is that? Is that really true, right? And that just involves turning the microscope of your attention inwards to now. And it's interesting, I heard of a friend who is quite awake taught me this, that attention is both a microscope, so you can look inside and really unwind what's going on, what's happening in the body, but you can also treat it as like wide-angle binoculars or a telescope, where you let your attention just dilate to include everything in your peripheral vision, in your field of sound, in your body sensation field, all at once. Do it now with me. Do it now with me. I'll walk you through. A lot of times we like to focus our attention on a thing, like, oh, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at Z-Dog's face, I'm, listening carefully to his words so that I can analyze them. And that engages attention in a way that triggers the analytic mind to try to do what it does best, which is spin thoughts, discursive ideas about, oh, I'm listening to this, what does this mean? Forming the connections, which are more thoughts, images, thoughts, memories, projections of, I got to get to work, right? Now, that's great. That's how the human mind works, and that's our default state. But what's interesting is that's not the fundamental underlying truth of experience in this moment. Those are filters that our mind patterns actually throw on after the fact. So there's raw experience that we then filter through all this distortion in the pond, the pool of awareness. And that's great because it allows us to function in this relative world. It allows us to make sure we get gas in our car, pay our taxes, plan ahead, do all these things. Even though if you really look into it, we're doing all of that right now. There's no future and past. We're doing all of this now. And then we assume it's for a future thing because when a new now happens, it manifests the way we might have predicted based on the previous now. So we call that time, right? Future and past. So there's another way to do it, which is step back for a second. Make your vision a little bit soft. So don't focus on anything if you can. You almost want to focus on open your full peripheral vision and take it all in as one field. Just colors and shapes, light and shadow. Maybe there's thoughts floating in this field. They almost seem to float in this empty space of sensation, of light and shadow and color. Now you can expand that attention to include sounds. This huge open field of perception of lights and sounds and colors. Maybe a thought's floating there. This guy's crazy. What happened to Z-Dog? What's he on? Maybe you feel something in your body, a pattern of energy, butterflies in your stomach. Maybe there's a thought about work. Maybe you're at work and you're thinking, I need to get back to work. And that's all happening in the same open field. Maybe in this field is an image of your own face projecting outwards, what you look like to the world, this separate me. Can you feel that? Sitting behind your eyes? What's that? Look for that. Is that a real thing? Is that another image of thought? Is that another set of sensations? Really feel it in the context of this huge pool of experience that's happening now. And any chance you get during the day to rest in this, just do it. Little by little. If it's 10 seconds, just do it. And the more you do it, you will see. Don't believe anything I say. That's another thought. It's another belief. Just do it. Investigate this now in the present moment, because it will always be now whenever you do it. That's really it. It's as simple as that. All right. I wish I could read your comments, but it's so bright on this screen that I'll have to read them afterwards. I can't even see them because it's all just a pattern of light right now. I can't even see my own face in the phone. So maybe that's a good thing. All right. That's really what I wanted to do. I actually didn't want to do anything this morning. I just turned on the camera and saw what happened. That's just how things unfold. That's accepting what is without resistance. And believe me, there's lots of resistance to saying these kind of things to you on a live open Facebook feed as a physician. Believe me, there's a lot of resistance to that I'm trying to let down. So you may think I'm a little off, or you may be like, that. And if you're in that latter group, stay tuned. All right, guys. I love you. It's getting so hot, too. Woo! That heat dome. Share this video. I'll put it up on YouTube and locals. And I will see you later now. All right. Peace.